Jupiter Broadcasting presents this program in stereo, where available. This episode brought to you in part by GoDaddy.com.
This week on the Linux Action Show, your desktop sucks. We'll show you how to make it awesome. We review the awesome window manager and tell you why it tickles our fancy. Plus, Mark Shuttleworth makes a preemptive strike in Ubuntu's new war against menus. Will they succeed? We debate. And so much more. Oh, this week on the Linux Action Show. And welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 20, Episode 04. My name is Brian. That guy next to me, the guy with the perfect hair, the guy with the plan to make it all worthwhile, that guy's Chris.
Hey there, Brian. Check it out. Everybody probably guessed it, but it's true. Reddit runs Linux. They just released their 2012 State of the Servers. Pretty interesting stuff, B-Man.
No, wait a minute. Before you get into this, because this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But seriously, who would have thought, Reddit probably runs like Windows Server 2003.
Yeah.
Like maybe NT4.
You might have been
like that would be news. Yeah. That would be exciting news that Reddit runs all on Windows servers.
If Alan was on the show and Alan would have said, Reddit runs FreeBSD, I wouldn't have questioned it because I would have been like,
okay, you could have done that.
Yeah. But no.
I mean, come on, it's Reddit.
It's actually, here's the interesting thing, though.
Of course they run Linux on
They've
the server.
got 240 servers. That's 149% increase from, or 101% increase in servers just from last year. They run Postgres as the background. They're migrating off of Amazon storage. The distro of choice for them, and they claim this is just their personal preference, Ubuntu Natty.
Yeah.
And they use Puppet to keep all their configurations in sync. And Puppet is a great name because it really is like a configuration management for servers where you're pulling the strings.
Puppet's cool.
They even, you know what I love about Reddit too is they always show their actual numbers.
That's a big number.
They're like, that's Google Live. That's in simultaneous. That's
100,000 people on the site right now
at one time. Yeah.
At one time.
So obviously Linux scales. And this is
mildly more traffic than my blog.
Well, that's okay, Brian. Don't feel too bad about it. So,
that's a lot of people.
Of course, everybody,
at once.
The Linux Action Show has linuxactionshow.reddit.com. I know people who watch the show are probably Reddit fans, and probably all
Linux Action Show subreddit's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's like honestly the best place in Reddit. You know how you go on Reddit and there's good information, and then like some of the subreddits are just people just get cranky.
Yep.
Like a great example is the programming subreddit. You go in there, people will post really interesting news. Everyone will just destroy people like right and left. The Linux Action Show subreddit is like this really supportive group of people just exchanging information.
Yep. And it's one of those where it's not a community where it gets so big where there's grumpy people that can sway it one way. Yeah. And it's great. It's like the best of the open source and Linux news world. It's
and
really
we
awesome.
tend to get the good news posted there before they get posted to the Linux Reddit or anything. It's awesome.
Like I follow like some raw hose, like news hose feeds where I just get blasted with stuff, and I still get. I actually now I attempt to post stuff in the last subreddit before anybody else does.
I work hard at it.
I know.
Like
people are fast.
The only way I can do it is to like go at like a weird hour at like 3 a.m. I gotta log in. I'm like, okay, what's happening in the news? I'm gonna post just something to get there before the other people.
Yeah. So I love the Linux Action Show subreddit. So thanks to everybody who's been rocking that out. And you can too. You can submit stories, questions, or just vote up and down what you want included in the show.
It's a good way to help like say what's gonna happen in the next show, what we're gonna cover.
Man, we got a big show today.
Huge.
People loved it when we talked about Xnomad.
Xmonad.
Yeah,
it's a window manager.
Yeah, so
it's a very hardcore window manager, and so we're doing something similar today. We're talking about Awesome.
Yeah,
the Awesome window manager, which is not like GNOME.
No,
it's not like KDE.
No,
not even a little bit like XFCE.
No, it's not even really like Blackbox or Enlightenment or
Icebox or anything.
Right,
it's a great window manager. We're gonna be talking about that a little later.
And we got a packed news docket, and we've also got a bunch of picks for you guys. So before we get to all that, we're gonna say good morning to GoDaddy.com, where the beautiful Danica is saying hi to us. And actually, tis the season, Brian. Next Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. And GoDaddy, they're working on their Super Bowl ad. They sent us, I guess there's going to be like some body painting involved. They sent us some behind-the-scenes clips. And so now I already know it's going to be like one of those things you got to watch for. I'm just saying, it looks a little racy.
Woo! Yay.
So I love it because GoDaddy gets all excited about the Super Bowl, and I love it when they send us the clips and they're like, yeah, check it out. Here's what we got. You guys can show a little bit of this if you want. So thanks to everybody who supports the Linux Action Show by using our code Linux when you check out. You'll save 10%, or use the code Linux20 to save 20% on hosting plans.
That's fantastic.
Right?
Glorious.
We also have some extra codes in the show notes. If you go there, depending on your shopping, you might be saving a little more money. More money. So thanks to GoDaddy for their support of the Linux Action Show, and good luck with the Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
It's always an exciting time of the year.
Danica's in it, so I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Now,
that's how TV works.
Actually, maybe we should talk about this, because actually next Sunday, we're going to be at your daughter's birthday.
Yeah, my daughter's turning 1 year old.
Congratulations.
Thanks. You just had one of those.
I did.
Your daughter just turned 1 year old.
She did a couple weeks ago, yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. And the boy's going to turn 3 in a month or
in like a month or so, yeah.
So
3. The little dude's getting big.
And I just turned 30 on Thursday.
Happy friggin' birthday.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Stuff is happening.
And then in a little over 2 weeks, I'm going to turn 33.
It's wild, right?
33 years old, dude.
It's getting crazy up in here, Brian.
Old.
So I think we're going to do, this isn't final yet, but tentatively it's pretty firm. We're going to do the Linux Action Show Thursday at 10 a.m.
A little early.
It's a little early, so that way we can make room for Super Bowl and for the birthday party.
A lot of stuff going on this weekend.
Yeah.
All right.
The Linux Action Show will still be released on its regular Sunday morning.
Normal time.
In fact, if we could do it on Thursday, I'll probably have it out early Sunday morning.
Oh.
You know?
Whoa.
So there you go.
Fancy.
All right, B-Man, you want to check out my Android pick? I'll let you play with it. It's Imager.
Can I play with it?
For Android.
Yeah, let me play with it.
And this is not the prettiest of apps, but
good, because I like ugly apps.
Imager came from the actual Reddit community, right? It was sort of it was designed as image hosting for the Reddit community.
Yeah.
And here you just play with it. You take a picture. One of the really great things though about Imager is you can post to it without having an account. And you just get a nice. Okay. So
okay.
Yeah, and then you can just share it right up as anonymous.
Anonymous.
So you don't have to sign up an account. You can post it to Imager anonymously, get a URL that you can just immediately share out. If you just want to take a single picture and then share it with people
to the world.
And you just can do this, hit it up there. But what's great, and it'll upload in the background. So you see there in the status, it's uploading the picture.
Yeah.
And when it's done, you just tap that and you get the URL.
Oh, that's great.
But what is really awesome about Imager that everybody needs to consider is by default, when you upload a picture, it wipes all of the EXIF data.
Oh, that's nice.
So you don't have to worry about your location accidentally being embedded in the photo
or what you took it with or anything.
Because that's always a problem with me. I'm like, if I'm at a family member's house and I take a picture and I go to share it, I'm like, does this have my GPS location in it? Because I turn that on for myself for my own reference. So now it's done. It's uploaded. And if you go here, so there's the URL right there.
That's awesome.
And then what's cool about it is you can share the URL or you can just copy the URL. But when you share the URL, it works with any of the sharing services that are built into Android. So I can actually paste the URL into a Google Doc. I could open up an Evernote thing. I could send it as a Gmail. So anything that shows up in your share menu, this Imager app will send it to. So
and honestly, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. This isn't a bad looking app at all.
No, it's okay. What I don't like is that I don't like that so much. I think
that's not bad.
Yeah, I guess
it's got some buttons on it.
Yeah.
Don't you want to click buttons sometimes?
I do like clicking buttons.
Well, there you go. That seems okay to me.
So I really like this because I often just want...
Man, it seems like you picked this app and I'm sitting here trying to defend it from you. You're just harshing on it.
I just like the single URL, picture URL aspect to it. If you want to use your account and put it into an album on Imager, you can, but I just like anonymous. Boom.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's
just plaster it out there.
So that's Imager for Android. It is free, and a link will be in the show notes. Thanks to Majo in the IRC chat room, who's joined us over at jblive.tv at 10 a.m. on Sunday.
Keeps the list going.
He keeps the list going. You can find a link to that list in the show notes. That's Imager for that. Now it's time for our app pick, Brian. That desktop.
App pick this week is a little different. It's more of a server-ish app pick. Now, we've been talking a bit about, there's been privacy issues. There's been, oh my gosh, who's watching me on the internet? Mm-hmm. Who's controlling me on the internet? Mm-hmm. What's happening on the internet? What's some soap acta pipe up?
What's going on?
Nobody knows. We've talked a little bit about Tor. You can anonymize yourself. That's not fully anonymous, but it's pretty close,
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. Well, what if we take a little different approach to this?
All right.
What if we say, you know what? Web browsers are cool and all, but we can do better.
And they're just web browsers just a fad?
It's just a fad.
Gotcha.
You know what? Let's go a little back in time.
Okay.
Let's go back to when things were raw.
Oh,
things were real.
All right.
let's go ahead and run our own BBS. Synchronet. So now what I'm saying here is Synchronet runs on Linux. It runs on some other platforms too. But what's cool about this is you can run your own server, run your own BBS server at home, on a host that you put up somewhere. Like you get a dedicated server box cheaply somewhere, stick it up there. What's cool about this is runs on Linux.
Yeah,
you technically can have it use a lot of the BBS DOS programs that are out there through the power of DOSBox and a few other tools. Or there's a lot of Linux native games and the like that come along with it that are actually very, very cool. Now, why would you want to do this? Why on earth would you want to do this when you could have a really cool website with forums and browsers and blah, 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 blah? Well, I ask you this. Why would you use IRC? The Internet Relay Chat is pretty old school. I mean, we're talking old school, right? But IRC is still useful. It's still valuable. It's still pretty cool. The cool thing about BBS is a Synchronet BBS you could set up so people connected over SSH, nice and encrypted. You log in, you set up basically the security is however you want.
Yeah.
You log in, you get messages, you get file areas, you get games, you get voting booths, you get everything you would normally get on a website. Basically forums, news, blogs, everything, discussion groups, files is all right there, just like it is now, except it's all text-based and you can do it securely. And because it's set up like that, it's kind of off the radar. You know, it's under the radar.
It is.
No one's going to go to your website and check it out. It's old school.
That's a good point.
Now, I dig that. Obviously, I like that. I run my own BBS. I don't use Synchronet, but Synchronet is one of my favorites. If you're going to use a native Linux BBS client or a server, you use Synchronet. It's very, very cool. I know this is kind of a weird one. I know like 3 of you guys would ever consider running this.
It really depends.
But it's kind of cool.
It kind of depends on. What you're doing, right? Because the whole idea is you can sort of create an island where it's not all interconnected by the internet. There's not this DNS system where they can block it.
Yeah.
It's your own private, like it's kind of in a sense like how
people can hit it up over SSH, Telnet, whatever.
The other online file news group service that I will not name because I'm not supposed to also kind of flies under the radar because it's a little more like that.
A little more like that.
But BBS is even more.
BBS is, I mean, according to the entire world, BBSs are dead. But they still provide all the functionality that we currently get. You could, theoretically, go upload video files to it. We could upload the Linux Action Show. You could hop in and download it through a BBS client, like SyncTerm and whatnot, which was one of the first app picks that we did on Linux Action Show.
I really like that idea. I mean, I really do.
Yeah, no. And if you want to get an example, if you've never played with BBSs before, you can telnet into bbs.lunduke.com, which is my BBS, and see what it is. Check it out. It is old, I know, but come on, old is still cool. Just because it's old doesn't mean it doesn't have value.
Should I warn the people on the live stream? Oh, no. See, it doesn't expire until December of 2012.
Yeah, that's fine.
So people on the live stream already know this, but I'm drinking a energy soda that I got last night, but it has really big floaties in it. So if I pass out, I mean really big, like bigger than bubble gum, like really big floaties. So if I pass out during the Linux Action Show, just assume I've been poisoned. All right, do you want to share our... wait, we got to spin the distro spinner.
Spin the distro spinner.
That's a really horrible spin.
All right, so as you know, we pick a random Linux distribution every week, and the Linux distribution of this week is Linux Gamers. The X is capital. Everything else is lowercase.
Does that make it extreme?
Linux-gamers.net. I think that makes it extreme. Basically, this is a live distribution for games. That's what it's meant for. It's not meant for anything else.
It's just boot and play.
Yeah, so you take a live DVD, you plop it in, you go to a LAN party, everyone can boot up off of the same DVD, they can put it on a flash drive, whatever. They've got the same versions of the same games for LAN play. That's what it's meant for. And it actually is pretty cool.
That makes a ton of sense because when you do LAN parties, that's always such a big part of the hassle. Make sure everybody's got the same version. Make sure everybody's got the same software. And then if it's commercial, you always have to come up with some other solution.
Now, the last version of this was released, let's see, basically the middle of this last year. It's about half a year old was the last release. But come on, most Linux distributions are about usually half a year.
Maybe if we give him a little bump here, maybe he'll get back at releasing a new version.
That'd be pretty cool. Now, if you go to DistroWatch, what I'm curious about.
Runs off of Arch too, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's Arch based. That's actually one of the things that caught my eye about.
So you could always probably just
Oh, come on. You get updated like crazy.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is with this, you grab the ISO, you burn it, and everyone gets it. So it would be cool if they updated it a little more recently.
Totally.
But I'm curious to see what this jumps up to on the distrowatch.com rating. Because
the last time
it jumped, what we talked about last time went from like number like 100 and something to number 16th.
B-Man, it looks like the guy does a release about once a year.
Oh,
so that makes sense. Because look, the last one he did was a year before this one, about 13 months. And chat room saying, Nano in the chat room is saying one a year. So that makes sense.
That actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Basically, you give the chance for all the games to improve significantly. Throw it in there. But plus, there's no reason to update it all that often if the games aren't changing. Come on. It's all about playing games. There's no other point for this distribution. Just games, which is kind of cool.
I'm always itching to do another gaming edition of the Linux Action Show because they're just so much darn fun.
Right?
So, I always do. Yeah.
What I love is when we do those gaming editions and we have those, everyone come and have a frag fest against Brian and Chris, and we just get murdered. Like, every time we've done that, we have gotten our butts handed to us.
So I do that sometimes.
Just killered.
Sometimes I do on the live stream PvP events for our Stowe show.
Yeah.
And so it turns out when you're doing player versus player and you live stream your location, people just come and pick on you. They just come and beat on you.
Well, plus you're Chris.
You gotta take every death with in stride.
To take down the host of like the Star Trek Online show. Well, that's just fun.
I know. Yeah. I know. All right, B-Man, let's do the news.
What's new in the news this week?
All right, Brian. The top story in the news docket for this week. One of the best damn distributions in the world has released a very minor release update, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
But here's the thing. If you're one of the best damn distributions in the world, you can release a very minor release, and it's still awesome.
Debian,
it's still one of the best damn releases in the world.
Debian, the granddaddy, the originator of so many distributions now, Debian 6.04 has been released. This really isn't anything major, but we've gotten kind of feedback from the community recently, and especially since we started doing the random distro picks, people are like, come on, guys, you got to give Debian some love. And at first, I kind of was letting this wash over because it's like, how do you not just think everybody just loves Debian? That's like saying you don't love Grandma and Grandpa. You know,
right?
It's like saying you're going to dinner and everybody had a great meal and Grandma and Grandpa wasn't there and nobody thought about him. And Debian's feeling a little hurt these days. I came across a Debian mailing list where they're talking about how they really feel like they need to get the word out there about themselves.
They do, and there's been a lot of like talks at conferences lately and articles about why do we not show love to Debian?
Right.
Why does no one love Debian?
And to me, that's just I love Debian.
Here's the thing.
Come on.
That's what it is. Everyone loves Debian. We just don't necessarily express it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to do that more because they're awesome. So here you go, Debian. We love you. Good job on this release.
Yeah.
It's 6.0.4. Normally, we would not care about a release like that number.
Know what Debian
but Debian's
is
awesome.
For me, it is the original long-term support enterprise distro.
Yeah.
Before it was a money-making scheme, before it was a label you put on something, Debian was that release that you could put on a server and you could update that distro for years to come and it would just run and run and run. I mean, some of the oldest servers I've ever set up still to this day run Debian. Because it's just such a rock-solid platform.
Well, and Debian is the #1 server OS in the world.
And it's
in the world, dude.
And
freaking world.
And it powers the top desktop distributions as well.
Right.
So it's a total powerhouse.
Earlier on in the day, in this show, we were like, hey, Reddit, you guys run Ubuntu on your servers. That's built on Debian.
Yep.
Debian is powering Reddit and everything else.
Some of the largest websites in the world.
The world.
Then, on the other hand, we have Fedora.
Well, luckily, Fedora is merging their file system together. Basically, what they're doing is they've got like their user bin and their S bin and a bunch of other stuff, and they're shoving everything under one whack user. They're giving it a nice new file system, and the idea behind it is actually makes a fair bit of sense. There's nothing terribly wrong with it. What they're doing is they're making it much easier to have a singular user mount point that will allow you to mount your whole OS much easier from a single mount.
Right. Instead of having to mount /bin/sbin/lib/lib64,
you just mount your
user.
And everything's under that. There's really nothing that remarkable about this. It makes a lot of sense. Honestly, I like to poo-poo on Fedora, but
I don't know. I mean, I'm not against it, but I'll give you two negatives that I don't like.
Give me two negatives.
One, is, and I think the excuses as to why this isn't an issue are all weak. But one, it makes recovering a broken Linux box a little harder because
it does.
/user is already a very large directory.
It's huge.
And so a lot of guys will put it off on its own partition.
Right.
So before, some of the essential utilities you would need to maybe fix a busted Linux box would be on your root file system.
Right.
And you wouldn't need to bring up the whole
You don't need to
large
bring user,
/USR.
Right.
Not a huge issue, but it's one of these
But it
things.
can be.
Yeah. And also, one of the reasons why it really started getting kicked off is because Solaris did it. And it's not that, but keep in mind, Solaris took like 8 years to make this transition. They started in like one version of Solaris and just finished in Solaris 11. And we're going to do it in one distro release.
Yeah.
Seems a little risky.
Well, I think if they pull it off, that'll be one heck of a beefy miracle.
That will be a beefy miracle.
That'll be a beefy miracle.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing that I find a little off-putting. See, I don't have any problem with it. I honestly, I think those concerns totally valid. I think it does make it a little hard to recover. But I think that, honestly, it's probably overall a good idea to ultimately shoot for.
Yeah.
What I am a little concerned about for the beefy miracle Fedora folks is that Fedora has a bad track record, at least from my opinion lately, of shipping their releases where they have problems installing software, the installers don't work quite right, stuff just is buggy. Now, you're going to move where everything is in your file system right before your release.
Yeah, well, they are going to symlink. They are going to symlink the old stuff.
Yeah,
I know.
But it's going to cause problems.
Yeah.
It is going to cause problems.
Yeah.
And this release, I mean, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna review it. I'm gonna try to have an open mind. But this basically tells me this release is gonna be extra buggy.
Yeah.
Like if it's not,
a risk.
I'll be surprised.
It's a big risk.
It's a big risk.
Here's some of the benefits they point out. So it's not all bad. So say one of the reasons we're actually doing this, and this I kind of grok, is to make so you can make /USR read only. So that way, and you think about that now, that would kind of be a pain in the ass for patches and stuff. But so if you make it /read only, then somebody can't replace a binary with like a rooted version of that or something. Because one of the first things somebody does when they compromise a box is they replace a userland tool that they have write access to, because then when the admin goes to execute it, he executes a rootkit.
Okay.
So you basically, it's essentially it's a long form version of hacking a box. As you replace some of those tools.
We don't have to make it read only though.
Right. But if you made it read only, then that would be a major security boost. Because
you could already make all those things read only though. It's just easier to make read only.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually give us anything new.
Well, it's just the only
it's
one.
It's just organizational. There's nothing other than
But
organizational.
simplicity is really good for
okay.
security. I mean, the simpler your setup, the easier it is to secure, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to be positive about it. They say also there's
I was all positive until you started giving me good reasons why they want to do it.
They say that /USR merge makes sharing the vendor-supplied OS resources between a host and network clients, as well as a host and local wait containers, easier. They say, and atomic. I don't know why they say. Snapshotting the OS also becomes more of a viable option. The USR merge allows making entire vendor-supplied OS resources read-only for increased security.
Okay, so
another reason you might do it is for thin client, because now you're getting a little easier just exporting only.
You just pull down user,
yeah. And the last thing that they say is if you want to export the USR like to an NFS export,
right?
All right. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Oh, I'm sorry. Solaris started doing this 15 years ago. So it took Solaris 15 years to make this transition. So, I mean, think about that.
Good luck, beefy miracle guys. Your release is 2 months away.
Yeah. But, at the same time, it'll be interesting to see if other distros do it. Also, I'll be interested to see if Red Hat Enterprise Linux does it.
You know what?
I'm willing to take that on.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say that Fedora's gonna do it. It's gonna go really badly, and then some other distro is gonna do it their next release. Like let's say the SUSE guys, they're gonna do it the following release. It won't go badly, and they'll make a press release with a little tongue-in-cheek comment about how they were the first ones to make it so it actually worked.
Or it'll just be a bullet point in the overall dist release, like reorganized file system.
Not big of a deal.
And it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah, because it works fine. Because they did it fine.
Now, it seems like some of the root of the anti-USR merging is actual dislike for Lennart Pottering, the guy that made Pulse Audio. And
oh, come on, guys.
I know, right?
Yeah,
and he's a little.
People are harshing on his guy. He's fine.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about something kind of cool from a friend of the show, Aaron Saigo. Talking about a new KDE-based tablet.
Love this. So, all right, we got Plasma Active, which is basically, Plasma is the KDE kind of workspace nowadays, to simplify things a bit. And Plasma Active is their new way of making this very touch friendly, to put a lot of information in front of you in a very tablet friendly way. And we're finally going to be seeing a tablet, a real honest to God physical shipping and not terribly expensive tablet.
No,
of KDE.
it looks like it's gonna. So they're gonna call it the Spark, and it's gonna go for €200, which is about $265 US.
Easy, cheap,
and not bad at all.
Not
right?
bad.
Here's the hardware specs. We'll get this out of the way. It's 1 gigahertz AM logic ARM CPU. It's got a separate 400 GPU. I don't really know.
I don't know what the performance.
512 megs of RAM, 4 gigabytes of internal storage, 7-inch capacitive stream,
and Wi-Fi. There you go.
And Wi-Fi. Yeah. There's some additional specs we threw in there. It's got also, at least the base model has 3G support. I don't know if their version will.
Interesting.
It's got HDMI out. In fact, I've got.
Oh, there we go.
I did that for our buddies across the pond. I've got this diagram here of the different ports on it, so you can see here. Brian, turn to you.
Oh, there you go.
So you can see. Wait, turn this way. Yeah. There it is. Oh, very interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right here.
So there. See the ports right there, Brian. Yeah. Right. There's the ports right there.
Finger went too far. HDMI is up there. All right.
So
there we go.
and according to the specs, that HDMI will do 1080p out, which
that's
is
very
awesome.
cool.
Also has a USB and an SD card slot.
Dude, I love this.
And it has your standard, your Android pre-ice cream sandwich touch buttons too.
Now here's the thing: is I think
so. It is essentially this Galaxy Tab.
Yeah. Or this.
Yeah.
Or this HTC Flyer.
This
little 7-inch tablet.
This is an awesome form factor.
It is. It's great. It's a good size. Honestly, if you're going to sit around and read comic books, this is a great size.
Dude, this fits inside my coat pocket.
Me too. Yeah.
My inside coat pocket.
Right here?
Yeah. So you literally have a little computer, and when you put it in your pocket like that, it makes taking it everywhere so easy.
Yep.
And pulling up email and stuff like that. Totally excited to have a Linux device now that can do that.
So excited.
For 200 bones. The fact that it's a single core 1 gigahertz processor with 512 megs of RAM isn't ideal, but when you think about,
I don't think it's bad though.
Generic web browsing.
Well, here's the thing.
Email. I mean,
so
it's do all that
over
fine.
here, I've got, and this is a full, real native Linux tablet. This isn't some Linux tablet with a bunch of Java UI on top of it like Android. This is native Linux. Now, I've got my little N900 here. It's a couple years old, vastly underpowered compared to this. Runs Flash fantastically well. I can play YouTube videos back stellarly great. Lots and lots of games, DOSBox games, OpenGL games, and this thing is a lot faster.
Let's be honest. We all know that native Linux has a lower system requirement than Android does. I mean, the reason why they're pushing dual core.
Yep.
You think about it in the last 2 years how we've just Java and Android are big. They need a lot of horsepower.
But
if you take away that whole virtual environment and you go right to the metal,
like a little Red Hat or Debian or something, and put Arch on there, Arch with a little KDE, and I would flip my noggin.
Heck yeah!
Now it just looks phenomenal. It's a great price. I guarantee you, I'm going to be having one of these guys. I don't even know anything else about it, but I got in touch with Aaron Saigo because Aaron Saigo is just one heck of a cool dude. Had him on the show a couple of times, and we got a lot of questions.
Yeah,
people are like, we need to know if this is real. Like, is this just a concept? Is this happening?
We've seen a few of these phantom projects before.
So I had a little back and forth yesterday with Aaron, and he confirms to me that it is indeed real, smiley face. Like, he's like, that's funny. I've gotten this question a lot too.
It's real.
It's real, guys.
No, it is real.
Like, real.
I believe it.
Physical hardware.
Last time we had him on the show, he was playing with a prototype with Plasma Active on it already.
Yes.
So if they're
and that was a while ago.
Yeah. So we're going to try to see if we can't get him to come on the show, but with Super Bowl Sunday and next Sunday being messed up, who knows?
It's going to be good. He wants to come on the show, so hopefully we'll have him on next week. If not, we'll at least have some more information from him. That's the plan anyway.
Let's talk about another portable Linux device, the Chromebook, which all right. Well, okay, so the official story is that it's seen massive adoption in U.S. schools, and that's awesome. And that is awesome. And it does make sense. I always thought the Chromebook and Chrome OS, if it was going to have traction, the educational market would make sense. They've just signed up some massive deals. Something
Huge.
like 27,000 students will be getting their hands on Chromebooks. When I started reading up on this, coming from a school district background, I could just smell that this is one of those, we came in here, gave you a really big sweetheart deal, and then got you to sign this contract, and now we're using it as PR. Microsoft does that all the time.
All the time.
And Apple does too, to an extent, but they don't so much anymore with the cheap prices. when this story first broke, if you follow Google's financial like news roll for like the Goog on NASDAQ,
Yeah.
the first stories were Google was giving these to the school.
That was the story.
Those got pulled, and now it's announced as an undisclosed sum. Like there's
So
some
the
money.
schools did pay for it.
Yeah, the school one of the schools they're selling to is incredibly broke right now.
Really?
So it's a good thing to get some. I don't care. I think it's great. I mean, if these schools who are financially struggling right now can get their hands on some technology.
Now go to this screenshot of this. Now they're shipping these with gigantic roller racks for charging.
So I actually used to have to move these around. I had one of these look just like this without the Chrome logo on it because it wasn't paid for by a company.
Right.
But we all had Lenovo ThinkPads with Ubuntu on them, and that thing probably weighs 290 pounds.
Really?
I mean, it is such a pain in the butt to push around. And so they got power strips in there, and you plug them all in, and you roll them around from classroom to classroom, and they call them mobile computer labs. So that way, all the students don't have to get up out of their classroom and go to a computer lab. You bring the lab to the classroom, and then they take the laptops out and they put them on there. Now, what we did at the school district I worked at is on top of that cart, we had a Wi-Fi router and a laser printer too.
Right.
So it was real easy. So every laptop always printed to its cart's laser printer.
That's
so there was
actually
no
pretty nice.
messing around. Yeah.
That's a nice way to go.
So anyways, actually, and Metal Freak is pointing out that, and this is interesting as well, the Chromebooks the school districts are doing monthly payments over the next 3 years on the Chromebook. Now, 3 years for a cheap netbook is a long time in school.
How are you dividing that up? Because the netbooks only cost like $200. So you divided that by 3, so you divide that by 36.
But you're buying 27,000 of them.
So you spend like $5 a month per netbook, something
and it's across multiple districts too. It's not all one district that's buying them all. So it's hard to figure out how it's being broken down. But I would say, because we experimented with netbooks at first, before we went with the Lenovo's. We tried netbooks because they're way cheaper.
Way cheap.
But then we got like a great deal on some educational discount for Lenovo's.
Yeah.
But the netbooks fall apart. They do not stand up to kids, really.
No, I've heard the Chromebooks are pretty well built, though.
That could be. I also noticed in the story, they're mentioning the Samsung is swapping out the Atom CPUs and going with Celerons because the Atom CPUs weren't keeping up with the performance demands of the OS.
Really?
So that...
How could the performance demands possibly be high? It's just one web browser. That's all it is.
That's what the story says.
A Chromebook literally is Google Chrome running and telling you to not run anything else.
Now, the big headline is they're going to have Chromebooks in 41 out of 52 U.S. states. If you read the news story, it sounds like they're already done, but it looks like the deal was actually just signed.
So they're just rolling,
Yeah, the deal was just signed on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's not actually rolling out yet. But
they've already rolled out in like 3 or 4 states, is what it sounds like.
Hey, man, it's great.
But that's great. I mean, I love to see that sort of thing. I love better machines being in the hands of the kids. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% thrilled because I wonder, how do you teach computing technologies to people with just a web browser?
Is that the future?
But I mean, who's building that future?
I'll tell you who's going to be pissed is Microsoft, because otherwise all of these kids would be on Office, and now they're going to be using Google Docs.
No, they're going to be using Google Docs. Yeah.
Yeah. So Microsoft's not all too happy about it.
No. Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, I get it. I get it. It's easy to administer. It's easy to keep up. That makes sense for schools. It kind of makes me sad in a way. Like, I remember when I was, like in middle school and whatnot, our computer lab was filled with random mismatched machines. Like, there was some old Franklin 64s that were like basically these cheap knockoffs of the old 64K Apple IIs.
Yes.
And like, just like cheap machines as far as the eye could see. Old CGA IBM PCs, 1 or 2 really old Macs with like strange yellow like cigarette burns on them that were donated.
Yeah.
And like
and coffee spills.
And what was cool about that is, as a kid, even if you weren't going to be going into, a technology related field, you got the opportunity to experience all these different computing
you're not kidding. That's how I got my start in the IT field, was playing
with.
And if I didn't have computers like that, I wouldn't. Yeah.
I got my start making games in BASIC and Logo on those really old machines when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would not be here today. I would not be doing the Linux Action Show. I would not make my living I make.
I probably got into computers because the Oregon Trail was crashing on an old Apple II, and then I got down to the command line. I was like, what is this? This is the real game.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that.
But now the kids, what are they going to do? Oh, they're going to go to lolcats.
Yeah,
That's learning about computers now, is going to lolcats on your Google Chrome web browser, on your Google Chrome OS, running on your Google Chrome Chromebook. That's
while you're logged into your Google account where everything's tracked.
Dude, it's just, I don't know.
They probably have generic account logins for the students.
They probably do, but it's just stupid.
South Carolina District 2.
They're missing out on the cool stuff.
They're buying 19,000 of the 27,000 Chromebooks. So they're buying quite a bit.
You know what? I would rather, and this is saying a lot, I would rather these kids have little netbooks running Windows 7. Because at least then they can do more than just a web browser. Like, I don't like throwing Windows all over the schools. I don't like that. To me, that reduces what the kids can possibly learn and deprives them of learning great technology for the future. But this is just a web browser.
What about,
there's no difference in usability, really, between a full-screen Google Chrome and a full-screen Internet Explorer 9 or whatever for a kid.
These have locked bootloaders, but you can, I don't think it's like impossible to unlock them.
Yeah, you can unlock them and throw OpenSUSE or Debian or whatever on them. Yeah. But the schools aren't going to do that. I don't know. I love this. It's great. I like
Rikai says now they're going to learn HTML5 and JavaScript instead of BASIC.
Really? Are they going to load that up in their web browser? Or are they don't have text editors. They don't have a command line. They don't have an FTP client. They don't have anything. What are they going to do? Go to Geo? What can they do?
I guess it's just a physical switch to unlock. You're right. No, I agree with you, Beam. I don't know about the Windows part. I honestly,
okay, that might be a bridge too far. But you know what I'm saying.
I would say this part is it's an unfortunate state of the reality that no Linux distribution was able to step up with a hardware partner and provide something like Chrome OS before Google did. It's too bad that Google was able to step in and fill, honestly, what seems like such an arbitrarily obvious idea that it shouldn't work. A full-screen web browser on a netbook seems so obvious that nobody would bother with it, but at the same time, how come nobody else did it before Google had a chance? It could have been Ubuntu with full-screen Firefox.
It's such a terrible idea.
You're right. All right, let's move on. We got big news.
We got so much to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about. All right, KDE 4.8 is out.
Yes, and it's really nice. We won't take a lot of time right now. There's a lot of little tidbits in there. Yeah. One thing I wanted to point out is one thing that they did in the file browser. They've kind of redone the rendering engine on it. It is nice. Fast as heck now.
Yeah,
like Dolphin has always been a great file browser, just remarkably nice.
I like this dynamic resizing that the video we have here is showing it.
And it's not just dynamic. It's not just smooth. It's dynamic and smooth with like a bajillion freaking files in one folder. It does a great job.
Dolphin got a great improvement. Also, Kwin got some 3D compositing improvements that make it a much more considerate battery user.
Yep.
So you can, if you want to use the, everybody wants desktop compositing effects, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right? But now it uses a little less battery, which is good. So there you go. And of course, this will be what's featured in the next big distro release.
Love it. Absolutely love it. The 4.8 is rocking.
OMG Ubuntu also has a quick write-up. They said it's got 6 new Alt-Tab type switchers you could choose from.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I haven't even tried them all yet.
Redesigned power management settings as well, and then also a new version and stable version of Kmail. Also the introduction of Case, that was the big part I was trying to remember. An introduction of K-Secret Service, a new back-end framework for all different applications to share passwords with one secure database.
I like the name.
I like the name a lot. Those things always, like the keychains and stuff, always tend to piss me off, so I'll be curious to see if that's an implementation.
Yeah, we'll see how well they do.
All right, B-Man. This next story.
Here we go. Hold on, I gotta crack my knuckles. I need to stretch. You go ahead and introduce this.
Mark Shuttleworth announces the future of the Ubuntu desktop. Say hello to HUD.
Yeah.
He kind of goes on to. I love it when
he calls it the future of menus.
Yeah, he does.
The future of menus. Now, if you have not seen the video mock-ups for this, watch them.
What do you think? Okay, so this is supposed to be like a full-on launcher that also replaces contextual menus and applications and takes like straight plain English commands, like, file open, file print, and you just type it in there and whatever you're doing, you don't have to take your hand off the keyboard, and there you go. What do you think, B-Man?
What on God's green earth are they thinking?
You don't like it?
Here's the problem with all of this.
Okay.
Unity is there to consolidate into a singular interface.
I know.
An interface that works well is the idea on both desktops and small mobile touch devices like tablets. And televisions and those sorts of devices. And it does make sense. Having a singular UI like Unity does make sense. The way they've designed it makes sense for TVs, tablets, and desktops. I get it. It may not be perfect for all of them, but it does make it much easier for them all to work similarly. Menus are just menus. They're menus. You click on a menu and something happens.
Well,
sometimes you can have menus within menus. That's pretty cool. They've been around for a long time. Now, let's think for a second. We have a tablet. Here we go. I click on Unity. Click, click. It now opens an app. Oh, a little dock. Boop. Here I go. And now I'm in Gedit. And it's open full screen in Unity because that's kind of the way. Now I'm using the on-screen keyboard to type maybe some stuff, or I'm using the web browser to use my finger to scroll and flick. Now I want to open a menu item. Okay, here's what I have to do. I invoke it with a key press that I don't necessarily know. I did something magical that no one told me to do. And then I start typing the exact name for the menu item for the action I want to have happen, even though I may not know what those words or letters are. But it's okay. It'll work.
All right, B-Man.
And I'll just start typing it. It doesn't make sense. It slows you down.
I got the opposite take.
It's ridiculous.
Here's my thoughts.
It's ridiculous.
Number one. I think it is fantastic to see Canonical not sacrificing a solid quality desktop experience so that way they can have the same UI across all devices, because that never works. You always end up building something that's kind of just mediocre on all platforms. You don't have to use the HUD, and it's not going to be the final replacement. It might not even show up on some of those other devices.
No, that's true. That's true. You don't have to use it right now. And let's be clear about this.
Yeah.
Before you keep going.
All right.
They've said that menus will continue in Ubuntu for a while.
Yeah.
Eventually, the standard menus will be gone. They've made this very clear.
I always felt
and be replaced with the HUD.
I felt like the menu system that was developed, it's just too what Mark calls, and I kind of agreed when he used the word fragile. Like you're going. Oh, I clicked off. Everything closes. I got to go back. Now, that said, I'm not positive this is the solution, because like they have this video that they have, and they show like, look here, I'm adding this stuff, and let's say I want to add a glow to this. Well, now I don't have to take my hand off the keyboard. But the problem is,
your hand was already off the keyboard.
You were using the mouse in Inkscape. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You're in Inkscape. You're using the mouse over here, and you had one hand on your Control and Shift key, because that tends to be what you do in Inkscape.
I kind of
so you had to stop what you're doing. Using the menu with the mouse is actually faster.
But what if you're typing and you're coding or you're writing up a doc? It would be nice to be able to just like hit the super key and type in whatever you wanted and just keep going. I could see.
What about shortcuts? What about Control S saved? Not super key tilde save my application, please. Thank you, Ubuntu. Enter. Oh, it saved it, I think. I don't know, because I didn't click on anything. It just disappeared. The HUD just went away.
It needs to be more visual. Like there needs to be like icons for different actions, and there needs to be like some sort of pulse-like feedback, like action was successful or something. I agree, because you got to have the good kind of feedback to know it's happened. Though I don't know. I kind of like it because I use I use GNOME-Do a lot.
I love GNOME-Do, but that's a launcher.
But between the Unity thing and Unity's menu itself and this, if this had some application launching capabilities as well, I could get behind that. And as long as it didn't take away my menus forever. But Canonical seems to be anti-menu. Like they try to hide them all the time. They just hate menus.
What if you had an application installed on your system that had the same name or roughly the same name as a menu item in the app you're currently in?
Yeah, like maybe someone with printing or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know how that works.
I don't know. I look at this and
I also like that it's like a back end too, so you don't even have to use the HUD. They're going to have like a command line interface to query it and stuff like that. People can write their own stuff around it.
I kind of like the command line interface aspect. I'm not gonna lie. That made me smile.
Yeah, they call it HUD CLI. Yeah, that's kind of neat, right?
Yeah, I'm cool with the HUD CLI. I just with the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't. I did, and then I don't.
I think it's interesting to see them do.
I don't even know how to express myself on this one. I just dislike it so much.
I would say as long as it doesn't replace the file and regular menus for a while, and we can make sure it's solid, which I'm sure they'll do that. I do really like the aspect of not being afraid to introduce something that would only really work well on the desktop.
I do like that, and I like that Canonical's taking risks. I like that they're doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
I like that they came out with something like this,
Right.
but I don't like this. To me, this is like Unity. Like, I still don't love Unity. Like, I like it. It's cool. I understand its place in the world now, and when I use it, I'm not upset.
And Ubuntu TV kind of showed us a more complete picture of the vision.
And so, you know what? Maybe there is a more complete vision behind it. I mean, Mark even said on his blog that he would really like to see like speech recognition built in so that you can just talk to your machine and navigate your menu items through the HUD.
I think it's funny he's even talking about that. It's funny to be talking about that. I guess it's good to have that in the vision. Yeah. But what kind of underlying technology is he going to rely on to get that right?
I have no idea. So I don't know that they even know. But it is possible. I like that they're thinking ahead for it. I like that. That's great. But I just don't like this HUD.
It looks kind of neat. It's done kind of well. It's got like this, the newer versions have like this interesting double outline to it.
But here's the thing. I hate how it looks.
Well, the version in that video doesn't look as good as the current one.
The current one does look better.
It looks a little better.
Now, you guys can actually check this out and test this right now. And I really recommend you do if you're interested in this sort of thing. Yeah. There's a PPA for it. You can grab it. You can test it out. It's kind of interesting. It's definitely very different. I can't stand it. Like, it makes me angry at my computer to the point where I'm just like, screw it. I'm going back to Windows 3.1.1 for work groups because I'm done with this. But honestly, it is kind of neat. And I like that they're doing it. I
think it's one to follow. It's one to follow.
It's just yet another thing. It's like GNOME Shell and Unity and all these major changes and paradigms to our desktop computing that just, I don't know if I'm old and fuddy-duddy and I'm just a grouchy old guy that's telling the kids to get off my lawn because I don't like what they're doing. I have a hard time with this.
Because so much of it started back at square one. And it feels like in 2012 and 2011, the computers at this point shouldn't be starting over and rethinking things. We should just be refining what's already been done.
Or adding new things. Like not getting, like, why would we replace things that already work?
All right, we got two more news stories to jam through real quick. And
we got a lot of stuff.
The chat room wants us to move on. All right. The next story on the news docket is about WebOS. We got actual firm details and when WebOS is going to go open source, which is great. And it's been like a month and a half since they originally announced it.
Yep.
But the most fundamental thing they announced in this announcement, I think, is that they're switching to the standard Linux kernel instead of rolling their own custom kernel. By using the standard Linux kernel, users will be able to install WebOS on so many things, and we'll already have drivers ready to go.
I love this.
So that, to me, means we're going to have WebOS on desktop.
Pretty much.
Because if you get that right, okay. So by the end of September 2012, WebOS should be completely fully open sourced under the Apache version 2.0 license.
Beautiful. And
it will be called Open WebOS 1.0.
I love it. This is great. This
They're going
is great
back
news.
to 1.0.
Yeah, but it's a whole new system. You know, it's based on a different kernel, though that really isn't changing much of anything. But I mean, it's great. This is really great news. This is relatively quick. We're talking really, September's only a couple of months away.
Yeah, and we're going to start seeing bits of it even sooner than that.
I mean, like, we got like 9 months to go until 1.0. That's rapid. That's fast. I mean, I love it. I love it. It's great news.
I have a virtual box right here on my machine at all times with WebOS, so I can go play with it.
It's cool.
And the whole idea that we could have laptops and netbooks running WebOS. Now there is your Chrome OS replacement.
Right.
Because you still get the full Linux desktop, but you can have that great UI with that super easy to use, integration of
the
like
card
services
system,
and
it's great.
Oh man, so that's cool. So we'll keep you guys posted as more stuff rolls out on that. Now this last story on the news docket, poor Mandriva. We covered it recently that Mandriva was looking like it's on the outs.
Yeah, originally they were supposed to die by like January 17th. If you look at the calendar, it's definitely past that now.
Yeah.
So they're not dead yet. A decision is forthcoming. Chris, there's a quote in here I want you to read.
Yeah,
Why don't you read this quote?
All of this is really based off all of this story is really based off this one singular quote.
Yeah.
And this is from Jean Manuel, and he said, "The deadline for the decision on the proposal has been extended by the proposing entity upon request of some shareholders." Oh, okay.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go.
After I read that sentence, I was like, now I want them to be shut down.
Well, I say this case is closed.
Yeah.
I'm going to close this book. All right. Now the future of Mandriva is firmly known after I got that quote.
What is it about the cross-section of Linux and just pure, raw, unadulterated bureaucracy that makes me kind of want to throw up? because I read that and I just viscerally hate that person now.
I know.
And I'm sure he's a great guy.
I'm sure he is too, but man, that quote just pisses me off.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it says. Like, I had to read it like 4 times to be like,
the
okay.
deadline for the decision on the proposal has been extended by the proposing entity upon request of some shareholders.
Here, let me, for those of you who are driving in your car and your eyes are turning all bloody with the anger that you're feeling after listening to that, let me paraphrase this for you. And I quote, I don't know, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Some
That's
guy asked
pretty
for us
much
to
it.
hold on, and he might be the same guy that's been holding things up from the beginning, but we're not going to name names.
He's going to figure it out pretty quick. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So there you go.
Jeez.
So no official announcement on Mandriva. We'll probably hear
It's
something.
not dead yet.
Yeah, it's not dead yet.
Yeah.
Just a flesh wound. All right. B-Man, that's all the news for this week.
I hope so. Talking about GNOME and Unity and KDE and all that's a lot of fun and everything, but
Kids' toys, Brian.
Sometimes, yeah, it feels a little Fisher pricey to me.
Yep.
Sometimes,
Yep.
like I like them. They look cool. They're great for teaching kids about computers and such. But what happens when you really want to get some work done? You really want to get down and dirty on your machine. Sometimes you need a little help.
Yep.
You need a window manager and desktop environment that's going to work with you. Now, in the past, we've reviewed things like Xmonad, which is a great window manager that's hardcore. I mean, it's hardcore. That
It's
thing
so hardcore,
boots up.
I have a hard time saying its name.
It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Xmonad,
Yeah.
Zmonad, or whatever it is to say. Well, we have another hardcore window manager we're going to review today that is a much easier window manager to say. It is awesome.
Awesome Window Manager. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is the Awesome Window Manager actually was, and this is just going right off of their Wikipedia page here, was originally a fork of DWM. In fact, Brian, I think you'd like this guy's style. Check this out. The fork was initially named nicknamed JD. WM, right? Do you know why? Do you know why?
Because that's the initials of the guy who made it.
That's the initial of the just like Ryan does with Lunduke,
Here's
right?
the thing: the guy that really changing it to awesome. As much as I love the name awesome, it really, come on, stick to it being named after yourself, dude. Because that is the way to go.
Says the guy who probably call it the awesome programming language in 6 months. You just wait.
No, I already did. There already is an awesome programming language.
I know.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, you mean am I going to rename it to Lunduke into awesome?
I'm making fun.
You're making fun.
Yeah. So let's talk about awesome. It's really minimal in the sense that when you first launch, it is just I'm showing the video version right now. It is just very basic. Not a lot going on. It's traditional. You click, you get your menu. You can launch your apps from this.
Yep. Or you can click in the upper left-hand corner. It has a very traditional, like there's a button somewhere, you click it and you can launch apps from there.
Now you'll notice immediately it doesn't have your traditional window decorators and stuff like that. It sort of tiles them in a sense automatically. So as you open more windows, it fits them all on here. Essentially,
it's a tiling window manager, so all your applications are visible all the time. I mean, you have multiple desktops. But
they call them like tags too. You can tag applications to multiple window desktops and things like that.
Yeah.
This kind of setup I think works really well when you have a lot of terminal windows up and a text editor. But I think it starts to kind of fall down when you want to do things like I want to put. You can move all the stuff around, but
now like click in the upper right hand corner, you'll notice that little square icon. The more you click that, it just basically cycles through the various kind of preset layout defaults, which can be modified. So you can kind of lay things out as you would want them to be laid out. And this is the sort of tiling window manager where you don't click to set focus to a window. You simply hover over it with your mouse or tab through it, basically.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that in the respect that if you really are doing a lot of development, you really aren't using your mouse to click all the time. You really notice how often you end up clicking the left and right mouse buttons in most window managers when you don't have to click to change windows. And you're just clicking to do a thing.
It's true.
You just move your mouse and you kind of treat the mouse cursor as your eyeball. What you're looking at, you move between the windows with your mouse cursor, and you can just keep typing, and you never even have to stop typing. The text will go into whatever has focus with the mouse cursor.
And I like that. But that's really cool. So far, is it too of a departure from Xmonad, but where this thing really kind of steps up is it has like this whole Lua scripting system to it where you can do like these, like you've got a screenshot here of an Arch user who has all of these really neat Lua-based widgets he's written that embed themselves into the desktop. He's got like real-time stats and terminal windows there.
It's pretty phenomenal. I mean, it definitely has a more old school look. I mean, every single one, let me cycle through these shots here. it's old school looking.
Mhm.
Sure, there's transparency in your terminal windows, and that looks great. But check this guy out here.
It's not old school technology though. Like it uses D-bus for like communications. It has it can do some 3D accelerated for the transparencies.
Now, what I'm scrolling through here, for those watching the video version, is all the different, essentially virtual desktops that I'm scrolling through that the guy has. Let me zoom out here. There you can see the full version of it. I believe he's got like 9 of them all set up, and each and every one of them here has a different set of tasks going on.
Mm-hmm.
And like, here's one, just all it's running is text torrents, big and full screen.
That's
so
cool.
we can just tab over to it. Now, this does have a lot of text going. The nice part about this here is performance, of course. Whoa, look how fast that goes.
Well, and the other thing, you scroll over to that picture there. If you have multiple monitors, it has, of course, some really great built-in support.
Amazing support for it. Really, what awesome reminds me of is those awesome computer setups that you see in the hacker type movies. In the movies where they're kind of almost making fun, like a James Bond movie, and you have a nerdy guy with tons of screens and all these text screens flying all over the place. Awesome makes it very easy to set that up. And I like that. That just speaks to me. It resonates with me. It makes my chest feel all warm and fancy.
The other thing is there's a pretty big community around modding it to be like the ultimate desktop for yourself. So they have like this, they call it Vicious, which is a modular widget library for the awesome window manager that is based on another one called Wicked. Yeah. And it's a framework, so you can kind of just use more simpler language to build really awesome widgets. That part I really dig.
Love
because
it.
You see, like in the screenshot you're showing here, B-Man, this guy's got like stats about his different drives, he's got stats about his servers, he's got stats about everything going on. And I like the idea of just dedicating a desktop full of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And this low-impact tech stuff is not a big deal, not like the graphical widgets are.
And if you look down there near the bottom, you'll notice basically he's got just a bunch of presets set up to mount specific things, to click on them. Here, you know what? Fetch and compile SVN. So he's got his program. He's like, well, I'm just going to click this. It's going to go do that somewhere else. It's very, very, very nice. And now, granted, you can accomplish all these things, say, with KDE and Plasma. Yeah. You can accomplish all this. It just has a different look. It does have a different feel. It's not as fast. I mean, there's no way KDE, with all of its graphical goodness, which is glorious and beautiful, can be this fast. It does more. But this one, it's just beautiful. Look at the simplicity of this. Now, you notice across the top here, you'll see in the very top left-hand corner a bunch of numbers. 10 numbers, in fact. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if it works. Oh, it does. Look at that.
You'll notice those are basically the equivalent of your virtual desktops.
Yeah.
And then next to them, you've got your list of your windows in this particular desktop that are running. It's really simple and straightforward. And, you know, your temperature and your time and all that. In that respect, it's not that much different from what you're used to now.
The definite power is in the scriptability and in the community that's sharing the different widgets. Like, you go on the Arch forums, and there's threads in there. Like, I was checking out... There's an Arch thread there, just like, show us your awesome window manager desktops.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And there's people that are like, oh, I love that widget. What widget is that? Oh, well, here's the Lua file. You know, grab this, do this, and you've got it. And that kind of stuff. That's really kind of neat.
Glorious.
And I know a lot of people are kind of in that position where you kind of joked about it at the beginning, but Unity isn't working for them. GNOME 3 isn't working for them. Cinnamon and Mate aren't there yet.
Yeah.
They need somewhere to go. If you live in SSH, if you live in the command line or a text editor a lot, or even a web browser and a couple other windows, this seems kind of like a slam dunk. Super low memory usage, too. So
super low. So just to give you an example, I mean, you don't have to just use your terminal. You don't have to just load it up like these guys did and just have terminal upon terminal.
But I do kind of see it working great for that setup.
Though I do tend to. So here's what I've got. I've got about 7 or 8 basically desktops that I've got all set up, and I just cycle between them, and they're running their full screen versions of their particular apps for the most part. And I've got things like I've got one full screen DOSBox one, and I use that as my DOS gaming one. Yeah. I've got another one over there that is I've got sync term logged into my BBS whenever I want to go and hop on it.
Nice.
I've got my code editors all set up. I'm usually using gedit because I like gedit. I don't have to sacrifice the functionality I get from KDE and GNOME apps just because I want to use Awesome or Xmonad or something like that.
The other thing I like quite a bit is they've got packages for just about every distro of choice. So I installed it here on Linux Mint, and it just now shows up as, see, I've got Mate on here, I've got GNOME 3 on here, and I've now got Awesome on here. So it's real low impact to try it out.
Right?
That's what's great.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, if you've got Ubuntu or Arch or Debian or anything, just install Awesome. Just do a little sudo, I've got install Awesome, and then boom, Awesome.
Watch how fast it logs in. You hit the login button and
you're
boom.
done.
it's like
Done.
It's
There's nothing else.
instant.
Now, the one thing that you will notice, however, there's a couple of things that are missing. How do you adjust your volume on the screen?
Yeah.
How do you connect to a Wi-Fi network out of the box?
Yeah, okay.
Now, there are a few things that are missing. Now, does that mean they're impossible to do? Not at all. In fact, you still have the command line. You still have your system settings that you can hop into manually to do them. But the idea is that you set up your desktop how you want it. You can create your little Lua widgets to make those pieces of functionality how you want them. You can hop into the command line to do them.
Yeah.
And,
Or download pre-made ones.
you know, it was interesting. The first time I started playing around with Awesome, my sound was muted. I couldn't seem to unmute it.
Yeah.
Like there was...
Were you thinking like, do I got to go down to the command line to do this?
Yeah, and I was like, so what I did is I logged out. I logged in to an XFCE session.
Yeah.
Unmute. Log out.
Oh, yeah.
Log into Awesome.
Yeah.
And it worked just fine. Now, granted, I could have done that through the terminal.
Yeah.
I could use also. I could have done all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I can load up my graphical settings managers and done it all there. But like, I had to stop for a second because I'm used to having a little tiny speaker icon up on the right that I could do.
It would be something that you know, specifically for somebody who's not familiar with those types of
it
more
would freak
limited
you out.
desktops. Yeah.
What could you do? Now, this is easier to pick up and run with than Xmonad. Because with Xmonad, if you don't know the key combinations when you first log in,
you're screwed.
You can't do anything. Right. You literally can't do anything. With Awesome, at least you can right-click on your desktop and start working.
Yeah.
Or click on the upper left-hand corner by default and start working.
It's more like open box
So
or
it's nice.
black box like that.
Yeah.
Awesome, I kind of have the feeling it's not really for me because I'm just so used to very specifically putting, I always have a video going.
Really?
I'm just really kind of used to, I could play with it for working on servers for a few hours. I could see living in Awesome for doing that. Then I caught, right before we came on the air, I caught this article where you can set up Awesome with GNOME as GNOME's window manager. So that way you kind of get advantages of like the dynamic window managing, the auto start goodness, but you also get things like Nautilus and GTK theming and that kind of stuff. To me, that kind of seemed like that might be more middle ground for me.
It is kind of a nice middle ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
I found I like Awesome. I like Awesome a lot. In
really?
Fact. I'm not sure. I think I like Awesome more than I like Xmonad.
Oh, yeah,
and it's interesting. But Xmonad's a great window manager. But I'm finding since I put this on here just to review it, I don't really want to leave it.
Well, it's clean. It stays out of your way.
It's clean. It's stable. It's faster than lightning.
Right.
Here's the thing. If you've got,
it's very fast.
Let's say you've got a current Ubuntu setup with Unity and all that other stuff, or you've got OpenSUSE or Fedora running GNOME 3, throw on Awesome and restart into it. And tell me if it doesn't freak you out how fast your apps launch in Awesome as compared to your apps launching in GNOME 3 or Unity. It is significantly faster. Now I'm mostly running Awesome on my netbook. Now, my tablet, which is an Atom-powered machine. It's only got about 2 gigs of RAM, so it's definitely not a beast. But on this particular machine...
That's probably perfect for this.
Honestly, apps launch 3 to 4 times faster. Applications feel more responsive. Well, it takes up helping less RAM.
Less RAM, less stuff hitting the disk.
Less processes are going on.
Yeah.
I mean, in GNOME or in KDE, there's a billion different processes happening all the time, checking this, checking that, different services acting as gateways for this other service. There's 5 different layers of sound libraries that you have to go through to hit the sound.
I think it might be my ADD.
Which you still have to
my
do
ADD might make it not work for me too, because it's a very distraction-free working environment. You know, you can bring up 2 windows or 1 window, and it's like that entire window is your computer.
That's what you work on.
Right. Whereas like when I look at my traditional desktop, there's a bunch of individual applications that are running on top of a desktop, but it's really the desktop I'm looking at. Awesome is a flip-flop of that. It's all about the apps with this very thin veneer of a window manager around them, which I really like on tablets, so I think maybe I could get used to it.
Well, here, go back to the screenshot real quick. Now, this screenshot shows you, now, granted, this is all terminal Windows and tech-based stuff, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 main applications running on your screen all at once.
Chat room is sort of downing on the choice to use Lua as the back end.
It's all right. See, so it's not necessarily that Lua is the back end, but Lua is a good option for building.
Not the back end. It's actually written in C, the desktop itself.
Right. Lua is just a nice way to build widgets. It's just like if you're building, say, JavaScript widgets for another environment. There's really no difference there. And in this particular case, the idea is to keep the individual widgets small, modular, and incredibly lightweight.
And it looked easy too.
Now, on the flip side, Xmonad has something similar going on, except it's in Haskell, which is a very cool language. Honestly, Lua's a little easier to learn.
Yeah.
A lot of people already know Lua. Lua's nice and lightweight. Now, Lua's not my favorite programming language. Like I have a lot of complaints about Lua, but for this purpose, yeah, Lua's a totally awesome choice. It's small, it's light, it's fast, it's easy to embed little widgets based on Lua in this sort of environment, and I love it. I love the distraction-free nature of it. It's clean, it's dark. It makes me feel like I'm in the late 80s, except instead of having a little 286, I have this mega powerful beast of a machine. Well, and I tell you what, this sucker is awesome with the touch screen.
You know, you go back to the Chrome OS story.
Activate the Windows.
Why not just a standard netbook, a cheap standard netbook that you don't have to pay on for 3 years, and you run this? I mean, doesn't this kind of give you that? What do they call it when you got a full
kiosk?
Kiosk. It's almost kind of kiosk.
Yeah,
because you can have the web browser,
launch Chrome,
Firefox or Chrome, auto start,
have it full screen, and you can tweak awesome so you can't launch anything else.
And there or leave, but leave something in there for.
But you know what I mean. But if you wanted to make it essentially Chrome OS, you could do it right like that.
That's what I'm saying. You roll your own on Debian. Why not give Debian some love?
Sure, give Debian a little
love.
A
whole full circle there, Brian.
Or Arch, which we got all these screenshots from Arch, from the Arch forum.
Yeah.
But I actually love this. I love this. It's taken me a bit to get used to it. A lot of the default window layouts that it comes with, I hate. But there's a couple of them that are just really nice and intuitive for me. And
yeah, I toggle through a few of them. I'm like, no.
I love it. I've got it running on my little Lenovo tablet right here, and it runs fast. It runs great.
Nice.
It's easy to use. I have no complaints about it. If you are really nerdy, you got to be nerdy for this.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
I
really do.
Another thing I was surprised with is I tried it on a small screen and I tried it on a large 28-inch monitor, and it really works both. It works well in both setups. Like, not all, like GNOME, for example, and KDE really suck on low res. Like 1024 by 768. Like you can't even hit some of the dialog buttons go off the screen and stuff like that.
Right.
This guy could easily scale down. I didn't try it that low for res, but easily scaled down and beautifully scaled up too.
Beautifully.
So it works for a lot of different configs.
It's great. I don't have a whole lot extra to say about this. It's so small. It just makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It makes sense. It is graphical, but it might as well be text-based.
And I guarantee you, see, what I used to do is when I would work with guys and leave them Linux boxes, and they'd ask me to leave a very minimal X11 so they could launch a local web browser or something like that. And I'd put black box on there, and I'd try to open box for a while.
Yeah.
This app-get-install awesome, and it was like 30-40 seconds later installed.
It's done and configured and ready.
Lightweight, tiny. It is now going to be, without question, whenever I have a server that needs X11 for some reason,
this works.
This is the window manager I am using.
It's great.
Every time.
You can have it set so that as soon as you log in, it'll pop open a couple of different terminal sessions with all the monitoring tools you need.
And like on
so
a
you can
server,
see everything
you
right
can
out
have
of the
little
gate.
Lua widgets. They're like, here's your stats about your server. Yeah.
I mean, it take a little tweaking to get it all set up right, but once it's set up, I love it.
And you just take those Lua scripts and you can put them on all your servers. Oh my goodness, I'm getting excited.
Absolutely. Now, here's the other thing. No icons. I mean, you got to do away with concepts like icons. I mean, there just aren't any icons, which sucks because I make software with really nice icons.
That's true, but it's part of that distraction-free environment. Those icons are shiny, and I like to click them.
Mm-hmm. And really, so there's no real window borders. I mean, window borders are a pixel line. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot more screen real estate out of this. I mean, it's a ton more screen real estate. You don't realize how much real estate you lose with all those window borders and the title bars and the panels and the bounces and the little dongles up there. They're all gone.
The chat room's like, guys, can you wrap up? This comes for Snickers. I want to relog into awesome.
It's great. Recommend it. I don't have anything else to say about it other than, is it the best window manager and desktop environment I've ever used? No, but I'm using it now. This is the one I'm using now.
Well, everyone, let us know what you think about Awesome, and that is the Linux Action Show's look at the Awesome Window Manager.
And that brings us to the end of this week's Spectamectacular podcast.
You might even say awesome broadcast.
High five. Right up top. Right up top. All right. Fancy times. Let's see, what do we got to talk about here? We got any
just
fancy
a quick
stuff?
reminder again, we're probably going to be doing the Linux Action Show Thursday at 10 a.m. next week.
Yep.
So just FYI to you folks.
If you don't follow us already on the Twitters and the G Pluses and the Facebooks, go ahead and find us. There's links over there in the show notes over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. So you can find all that, click on it, and we'll tell you, like what if Chris gets sick? What if he gets the Ebola flu? Well, then we have to move it to Wednesday. We won't know. We won't know that until he gets the Ebola flu. That's how you'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it should end up kind of being a double header because we'll wrap up the Linux Action Show on Thursday, and then shortly after that, it'll be time for TechSnap Live.
Oh, man. So you get a double dose of nerdiness.
Yeah.
And it'll be in the middle of the week. So if you don't want to be working, you just load those videos on up and pretend to work.
Or visit the jblive.am audio stream, which is great
Can't
for
go wrong
streaming
with
while
that.
at the office.
Can't go wrong with
So what
that.
have you been up to this week, B-Man? I heard you got a couple secret
kind of a busy
projects
week.
in the work.
I had a kind of a busy week.
Maybe tell people about it.
Kind of busy week. All right. Two quick things. First of all, we did something this week that we were a little concerned about. We were like, is this going to create a little bit of controversy? Are people going to be upset about this? Turns out they weren't. Here's what we did. We decided to make a discount for our software that is only for Linux users. Now, this isn't like a sale. We just literally decided that if you go to our website, radicalbreeze.com, and buy Illumination Software Creator from a Linux desktop, you immediately get 25% off and a little message that says, hey, good job running Linux. You get 25% off.
Yeah.
Now, here's why we did this. And I want to be very clear about this because I don't want to make it sound like I'm just going out there and being mean to Windows and Mac users that we also sell to. We've been getting so much less in terms of tech support requests from Linux users than Windows and Mac users that it actually saves us a ton of money the more we sell to Linux users. So maybe 10% of our overall tech support load is Linux-specific issues. Probably 60 to 70% is Mac and Windows-specific issues, and the rest are just like specific to the software. If we could sell to more people just running Linux and running our software on Linux, we would save money. We would make more money per sale.
I gotcha.
The more times we could get people using Linux instead of Windows or Mac. So we're like, you know what? We're going to encourage that. And I asked about this. I sent this out to the Google Plus people, and I'm like, you guys, is this cool or not? Are you guys okay with this? And someone mentioned something awesome. It's like going to a gas station, and they're like, you know what? If you're paying cash, it's like 10 cents cheaper.
That's true, yeah.
And that's really what it is. If you are willing to run our software in a way that saves us money, we're going to go ahead and make it a little cheaper for you.
That's cool.
So we went ahead and did that. So it's now permanent. If you go to radicalbreeze.com, Illumination Software Creator is 25% cheaper. It doesn't say it on the website unless you're there on Linux.
You got to have a Linux user agent.
A Linux user agent on your browser, and you can go there and buy it for 25% off. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Something else, though, right?
And we're having a contest. If you want to use Illumination Software Creator to create whatever kind of application you want, a little game, you want to make an adventure game, want to make a choose your own adventure, want to make a cool tool that wraps a bunch of command line utilities, whatever you want to make it now with Illumination Software Creator, submit it by the end of the month, and you win a whole bunch of stuff. We're giving away an Android tablet.
Wow.
We're keeping it secret which one. We're giving away some games from goodoldgames.com because
nice, they're awesome.
I like goodoldgames.com. You get to choose a game from goodoldgame.com and we gift it to you. Along with some other stuff, we're going to be donating like copies of Illumination to whatever school or nonprofit you want.
And they got to have it
into
you by February 29th.
End of February. So go to blog.radicalbreeze.com for more information on that. That'll be tons of fun. Honestly, within the first 24 hours we had this up, we had probably 15, 16,000 people reading that particular post. So I'm guessing gonna be some fierce competition. But there's not just gonna be one grand prize winner. Basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick the best apps that people send in, and we're going to give them each their own category. So like if one person makes a randomly weird app that all it does is make your computer rhyme everything you say or something like that, we're gonna make best rhyming application or something like that. So if you create something that's really cool, you get the prize along with everyone else. So that's a lot of fun, and that's what we got going on right now. Lots and lots of fun.
I don't really have anything to plug other than I will mention that I did an in-depth look yesterday, Saturday, and if you haven't seen it yet, you know what? I'll mention the new contact page too. It's about I took an Atom motherboard and I took 2 different live distributions and saw which ones worked best on this Atom motherboard for home theater.
That's
and so
cool.
there you guys can check that out. Also, a lot of you have already noticed I'm getting a ton of email. It's awesome. It's great. But we have a new contact button at the top of jupiterbroadcasting.com. You hit that and you can get a hold of any one of the shows. It's got to drop down. You just select the show you want. And then one last obnoxious plug is if you scroll all the way to the bottom of jupiterbroadcasting.com, at the very, very bottom, we have affiliate links now where before you shop, you just click those and your entire shopping session gets tagged to give us a percentage of your purchase. Now, everything you buy is anonymous.
It doesn't cost you any money, and we don't find out about it, but we get some money.
Yeah. So you just click those before you start shopping, either Amazon, Newegg, ThinkGeek, Best Buy, Mint.com, or Audible.com. And Audible has a badass Android app. They give you like stats. And
It's
like,
great.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's totally geek. It's totally geek stuff.
I love
there.
it. Yeah.
There you go. So that's what I'll plug for this week, and you can check those out over on the main site.
You really can, can't you?
Boom, B-Man.
Bajoom.
Well, there you have it, everybody. I think that just about wraps up this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. But we'll be right back here next week. What the F is new?
What the F is new in the week this week? New in the week. Oh, crap. Hold on.
Boom! News docket. What the F?
That's an interesting thing you just said, Chris. Because I'm ready to make a show go off the air. Is make some weird mention about like a government conspiracy. Bam! Everything goes down. Website...